Sera Murphy, a Korean American currently living abroad in Singapore, though she comes by way of Hong Kong, New York, Los Angeles, and Seattle. Currently, she runs the Reoutfitter, a personal fashion styling company that focuses on incorporating better shopping and dressing habits for the everyday consumer. But today, she's going to be giving us a walk, she's going to take us on a visual journey of 5 AAPI icons in the fashion and food industry, showing us how they found their legs, found their success, found their AAPI voice, and found friendships. And we will also find out what this portmanteau Slaysians really means. So please feel free to type any questions you might have in the chat box for Sera. And we'll see how we go with time and have some questions at the end. I'll read out your questions. So take it away, Sera.
Thank you, Angela. First of all, thanks so much for having me on this to be kicking off the AAPI Heritage Month with you guys and Democrats Abroad. You know, when you first reached out to me, my mind immediately thought of some AAPI members that have just made a big contribution to the community and that have inspired me personally. I've been in fashion for pretty much my entire life, and I am a huge Instagram follower. I don't know if I'm proud of that or not yet, but lately, with all of the sort of events happening back home to our community, a lot of what I see on my Instagram feed are celebrities that I follow that are speaking out for our community. And those celebrities tend to be fashion people in my case. And so that's kind of how I pitched this idea, hashtag Slaysians. And let me just go ahead and share my screen now. So to Angela's point, I will be taking you through a sort of a visual view of this as well. Bear with me a little bit. I'm still a little new to Zoom. Okay, so you guys should be able to see my screen now. Great, okay. So like I said, I'm gonna talk to you about the hashtag Slaysians. Before I even get into the full phrase Slaysians, I think we need to take a step back and talk about the term slay. So slay traditionally means to kill, so to kill that dragon. But you know, if you look on Urban Dictionary, who is the owner of all slang nowadays, slay means to kill it, to succeed in something amazing. And that has sort of evolved into, you know, several memes on social media with Beyonce or Rihanna slaying it, and just kind of a positive, you know, I'm gonna slay the day, I'm gonna win, it's positive, it's like a seize the day type of phrase nowadays. So then, you know, you couple slay with Asian and you get Slaysian, which is a boss Asian slaying the game. If you look on Instagram, you can actually search by hashtag. So if you search the hashtag Slaysian, there's about 9,000 public posts that are out there. So, you know, it's not just these 5 people that I'm going to talk to you about today. It's a lot of people. Maybe I use it occasionally. You might see me on there one day. But sort of going back into the hashtag, back in 2018, Prabal Gurung, who is one of the designers I'll speak to you about today, posted this photo here that you see on the left with his friend Phillip Lim. And he kind of used this hashtag like, oh, you know, I'm out and about, hashtag Slaysians. And Phillip Lim is like, haha. And then he continues to sort of use this hashtag again while he's out at a club, back when going to clubs was a thing. And he starts to hashtag this group as, oh, we are the Slaysians. And that's sort of where, back in 2018, how this hashtag started. And as the months and years went on, if you look under the hashtag label, you will see that there's kind of a core group of 5 of them who are always posting pictures of themselves being fabulous and hashtagging it Slaysians. Here's some of my favorite shots of the group. So I will now start getting into sort of the details of who each of these people are. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to just send a little text on the text box there, and hopefully it will pop up for me and I can see it. So first we will start with Phillip Lim, who is a fashion designer. He has a fashion line called 3.1 Phillip Lim, obviously named after him. He was actually born in Thailand to parents who are of Chinese descent. Back in the 70s, Cambodia was still going through their civil war. So his parents left the Southeast Asia region and came to Southern California, basically to remove themselves from the violence that was happening there at the time. Here's a picture of Phillip on the very left with his family at a wedding, in the middle with his sibling, and then there again with his mom. He ended up studying at CSU Long Beach. He studied finance, even though his mother, pictured here, was actually a seamstress. So that sort of tells to some of how long he's been in the apparel industry and knowing about it. He ended up doing some part-time work and internships on the weekends at Barney's. And then eventually he decided that he wanted to start his own fashion line, and he moved to New York City. So that was his first line, launched in 2005. And by 2006, Vogue and all the fashion editorials, they were all over him. They called it pretty but cool on his fall launch, which is quite amazing to have only been in business a year and have Vogue praising you. I'll speak to some of his looks that I think has made him iconic. So in 2006, he was really working on a lot of these silk textural pieces and adding them to what would otherwise be pretty plain dresses. Later on, he really started to work into the work look. So at the time, you know, women didn't really have a lot of choice outside of Brooks Brothers or Ann Taylor when going to work. And he really wanted to make clothes that were still cool and fashionable and a little hip, but still okay to wear in the office. So like this model is wearing here, she's just wearing suit shorts and a trench coat, something you could totally wear if you're working in an office that doesn't require jeans, but it still looks polished. And then she can take that trench coat off and go to dinner at night. So that was sort of the ease of his collection. In 2011, he launched his menswear line that had a similar vibe to the women's wear. So it's traditional suiting pieces, but updated. So maybe you'd find a little extra button on the lapel, or maybe it was like a zipper on the back of a sweater, which at the time was very modern and very new to see out there for menswear. This look in 2013 is when he really started to take bold prints and sort of deconstruct them, put them together with unexpected other prints, like a small floral print here with the big floral print. Why not put those two together? In 2017, continuing with his look of updating traditional workwear, is this beautiful double vested coat, but in a neon yellow, which is just shocking and cool to see. And then in 2017, his menswear line really picked up. And at the time, he was sort of the first to introduce that real casual, but also work look for men. So if you think of like a sweatpant, maybe with a jogger bottom and a sweatshirt, but then throwing over this really cool blazer, which I think really hasn't gone out of fashion since 2017, especially with men continuing to wear sweatpants around lately. And this was sort of the it look, again, back when his line was still in its younger years. It's just a simple t-shirt dress, but these clusters of flowers or rosettes were just sewn on. And I did not write this quote, by the way. It's LA Times saying that $510 is a bargain. But at the time, Phillip really pioneered that luxury, affordable space. So think of all the new millennials fresh into their six-figure jobs, wanting to wear something to the office that's appropriate, modest, but still is cool and says a little bit about their personality. It was everything in his collection is generally around $500 to $1,500. So it's almost like getting a luxury designer fashion without having to pay that price. Just a little bit above the tier of a Brooks Brothers, as I mentioned before. Since then, Phillip has done some really amazing things, including dressing some of the celebrities that you see here on this slide for the red carpet. There's some actresses shown on the bottom left carrying his Pashley bag, which is kind of a fashion favorite. He launched a line with Target, which was really cool. And I remember I was in New York at the time, and I was logging onto the Target website from work, refreshing it, trying to get a piece of anything Phillip Lim, and it just sold out like that. And then I think I scoured eBay to like try to buy something. And then recently he did a collection for Fila as well, which I think was really smart on his move because the activewear sector of apparel has really taken off, especially during the last year during the pandemic. Oh, and lastly, I didn't talk about my favorite piece. So this chartreuse green that you see on the bottom middle left. So if you look closely, those little sequins on the dress are actually made from algae. So this is 100% sustainable dress that obviously is biodegradable if and when the wearer decides they're not going to wear it anymore. So Phillip is also really passionate about sustainable fashion and working with factories and other designers on coming up with cool, innovative things like this. That when he posted that picture on Instagram, my mind just like exploded. That was the coolest thing ever. Every sequin should be made from algae. So just recently in the past few months, Phillip has said to the Wall Street Journal, I can no longer separate Phillip the person from Phillip Lim the brand. So Phillip has two Instagram accounts. One is the real Phillip Lim. He has about 86,000 followers. And then he has his brand Instagram, which is 3.1 Phillip Lim, that has close to 1 million followers. So quite a big reach. His personal Instagram these are actually snapshots of Phillip's personal Instagram. So as you can see, there is not a single picture on here that is fashion related. This is all about activism, stopping Asian hate, speaking out against Asian hate for our community, reposting other Asian Americans in the community that have contributed. So this is something he's really, really passionate about. And I think prior to my previous slide's point, his brand name has his name in it. These million people that follow his brand's Instagram certainly know that Phillip is an Asian American, and he's big on this activism for his own community. Some other ways that he has spoken out, he's been on CNN a couple of times. He launched this New York Tougher Than Ever collection back when COVID was really hit hard in New York. He worked with Tiffany's to also create this little keychain that said "Stop Asian Hate." He's a huge supporter of using GoFundMe and the various platforms that it helps to support. Speaking to the screenshot on the bottom right a little bit. So for those of you who did not hear this story, Yaopan Ma was a man who was walking around Chinatown one night in New York City, collecting cans to get money because he had recently lost his job through COVID, because of COVID, and just was attacked brutally, is currently in a coma, and attacked for no other reason than just being Asian. And Phillip recently moved his design studio from the fashion district in Manhattan to Chinatown, just to be able to connect more with his community. So when he saw this hate crime take place, he actually reached out to Yaopan Ma's family to set up a GoFundMe for his family. So highlighted there, it says Phillip Lim is organizing this fundraiser. And as of just a few days ago, he had raised over $500,000. And I think that says something to, Phillip's reach and how many people follow him. He just posted about it on his Instagram, and this is how much he was able to raise for that family alone. Next, we will move on to Prabal Gurung. Sorry, I have a bit of a hard time pronouncing his name sometimes, so if I butcher it, excuse me. He has a fashion line under his own name, Prabal Gurung. Prabal was actually born right here in Singapore, but to a Nepalese family. So his mother actually ended up leaving Singapore to go back to their home in Nepal to raise him and his siblings. He worked for some fashion designers and some factories over in India before he made his way over to New York City, where he entered Parsons, which is a very prestigious design school in New York, if you haven't heard of it. He ended up taking some internships with Donna Karan, Cynthia Rowley, and Bill Blass. For those of you who are not familiar with Bill Blass, he is sort of this all-American courtier that is famous for doing amazing ball gowns, black tie style gowns for really New York City's elite and America's elite, people who go to ball gowns. And that's sort of where I think Prabal got a lot of his inspiration, is through working with Bill Blass. Like I said, he has really honed in on the gown sector of fashion. When he launched his own line in 2019, Women's Wear Daily called him "A Star Is Born." He had previous connections in the fashion industry, so his line was really looked forward to, and I think it just really landed, particularly with the celebrity red carpet. His look is sort of that femininity with a bite. So if you look at the dress, the top left dress that Jennifer Lawrence is wearing, it's this beautiful high-necked sequin gold gown, but then it has cutouts on the side. Sarah Jessica Parker is featured here. She is also a really good friend of Prabal's. And I think actually just yesterday they posted on Instagram about how Sera and Prabal went to Chinatown in New York City to celebrate AAPI Heritage Month. And there's just No denying the influence that Sera has on fashion herself. Some of these other looks here, you can see he does not shy away from a bold look. So whether it's a peplum coming off of the waist, whether it's these embellishments, or whether it's like a feathered taffeta belt hanging off this green dress, that is sort of his signature look. When Prabal launched his line in 2009, he was quoted saying to Glamour, "My dream right now would to be for Michelle Obama to wear one of my dresses. She embodies what it is to be a modern American woman in every possible way. Smart, educated, confident enough just to let her husband be in the forefront, yet still command her own attention. That would be my dream." And lo and behold, his dream came true. Michelle ended up wearing several of his dresses to several of her engagements that she went through throughout the Obama presidency. And she looks pretty fabulous, I think. The Met Gala, I can't talk about Prabal without talking about the Met Gala. The Met Gala, as most of you probably know, is this amazing event that happens once a year, held by the Costume Institute at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan. It has been essentially declared the Super Bowl of fashion, where celebrities show up in the best fashion outfit they can come up with, usually helped by a designer. And in this case, in 2019, there were 8 celebrities that he got to dress. I believe the theme was Heavenly Bodies at the time. And he really wanted to highlight the bodies of these beautiful, diverse actresses. I thought these images were great. He released sort of his sketches of his design. So on the left, there's Diane Kruger's outfit, and then Gabrielle Union's on the right. And to this collection, he said, you know, people often say that fashion is just clothes, but it's not. It conveys so many messages. That's what fashion can do in the world we live in. It's truly about representing different conversations. It's no longer about the designs. It's about who's wearing it, why, and what she's representing. So even if he's not being actively vocal about the Asian American community here, I think he's getting to that point. So this quote that you all see on the screen now, you know, as an Asian American, those of you who are, is probably something that you've heard more than once or twice in your life, especially for those of us abroad. We might hear it a little bit more in our lives as we, you know, make our ways as Americans in the world. And, you know, despite Prabal having a huge influence on American fashion, he was told this quote in a meeting with some of his other business colleagues. And to his response to this quote was a full-blown collection. You know, he basically created a line of clothing that he thought represented what the American dream was. So he used roses, as you can see, because that's our national flower, as a print on his dresses. It's a lot of red, white, and blue. It's a lot of taffeta. It's a lot of that puffed sleeve, kind of an homage to the old American fashion ways, except he sent all the models running down the runway with these sashes that says, "Who gets to be American?" And then you can also see that the models are extremely diverse. It wasn't lost on him that he should be using models that he thinks represents what American women look like. And he said, you know, I'm an American citizen 20 years ago, became one 20 years ago. I pay my taxes. The majority of the clothes that I make are made in New York or in America. I've spoken on social issues, I've contributed and been an active member of this country. So when is it going to be enough? Recently, the Wall Street Journal asked the question, is Prabal Gurung the most woke man in fashion? And I think it's a tough call between him and Phillip, but Prabal has actually done a lot of really cool things himself. He launched this shirt that said vote, that you can see Gigi Hadid wearing here. He had a t-shirt collection line that had some really cool quotes, like this is what a feminist looks like. Nevertheless, she persisted. She cloaked the singer Katy Perry in this beautiful blue gown that said, I'm with Madam President during the 2016 elections. And then he also founded the Shikshaya Foundation in Nepal. So Shikshaya in Nepalese actually means education. And what he is aiming to do there is to educate Nepalese children through reading, the arts and culture. And he specifically wants to introduce some more progressive ideas in Nepal to the children, because he does feel, that when he was growing up there as a queer Asian man was really difficult for him. And his mother was really supportive of that. And he really wants young Nepalese children to have sort of that same progressive education that he was given. Some more of what Prabal has been up to, just casually speaking to the New York Times, CNN, donating masks during COVID, dressing Kamala Harris on her first day of office. His Instagram accounts, if you guys want to follow him, are listed here. So his personal one is Trouble with Prabal, which helps you remember how to pronounce his name. He has about 90,000 followers. And then his, fashion line, Prabal Gurung, has almost 800,000 followers. And then this photo here on the bottom right, the man you see in the blue coat there taking the picture at the Black and Asian Solidarity March in Manhattan. That's actually Prabal himself. And I just think it's so cute to see him, excitedly taking pictures as he's marching for a great cause too. And he's not taking a picture of a celebrity, like he himself is the celebrity here. And I had to throw this little slide in there because this just happened a few days ago. Madam VP in PG is what Prabal posted on Instagram. And he said, my story is one that could only happen in a place like America. I continue to live my American dream every day. I built my brand from its inception as a luxury brand with a soul. And I think he's really speaking to Kamala Harris there and how, she really has a soul for the American people. And this is just my speculation, but I like to think that Prabal dressed her specifically in these lighter colors to sort of omit the optimism and the lightness of this new administration coming in, as opposed to some of the darkness that our country has been through in the past 4 years. Okay, moving on to Laura Kim, fashion designer for Oscar de la Renta. Laura was born and raised in South Korea and went a little bit back and forth between Canada and South Korea, if I understand it correctly, and eventually landed herself at Pratt, which is another very prestigious New York City fashion school. When she was there, she was given some scholarships by the Council of Fashion Designers of America, which is sort of like the group for fashion designers to be joining. She had some internships with Say Cashmere. They're just like a luxury cashmere brand. And then Donna Karan, who needs no introduction. And then almost immediately as she graduated, she landed a job at Oscar de la Renta. I'm sure he needs no introduction here. But she is for the better part of 12 years, worked for Oscar and just sort of moved her way up the ranks in the design group there. In 2015, she actually left to start her own label, which I will speak to a little bit. But while she was starting her own label, to help supplement her income, she started working with Carolina Herrera. And long story short, Oscar de la Renta, the company, and Carolina Herrera had a few lawsuits going and tried to sue her or the companies back and forth. And I think that just speaks to Laura's talent when you have, you know, the two most famous red carpet courtiers fighting over you. Generally, I think is a good thing. It's not been made public what the settlement was or how much who made from it, but that's for another story. She has landed herself back at Oscar de la Renta with her partner, Fernando Garcia, who is pictured there in the middle, along with Oscar de la Renta himself, who passed away in 2014, I should add. So the two of them have really taken over the creative part of that company. This Monse, which is the line that Laura launched herself. The term Monse is actually named after her partner's mother, who's Dominican. When she launched this line, she essentially was doing a lot of experimentation with the women's work shirt. So if you look at this photo here in the middle of Rosie wearing that white shirt with the pinstripe pant, if you look really closely, all of the details are sort of deconstructed. Like there's this lapel that comes down that looks like a pocket on the pant. The shirt is meant to be more worn that way. It's actually designed to be cut off the shoulder, which I think is very edgy and just very fresh. She also works a lot with stripes, as you could see, but mixing it with like a taffeta, right? Which is a bit unusual and different. And she is a celebrity favorite. As you can see, there's Selena Gomez wearing one of her dresses, Sienna Miller, Rihanna just rocking that gray office modern look, and Lady Gaga. I really love that dress on Lady Gaga. And here is some of the amazing designs she's worked on while at Oscar de la Renta. This picture on the left, sorry it's so blurry, but this was just recently at the Oscars. That's Laura Dern wearing her super fluffy, updated version of the swan dress that Bjork wear. And that sitting with her is actually her partner, Fernando Garcia, who I mentioned. So you can just see, you know, anytime you look at a red carpet of the Oscars or the Grammys or some other major red carpet event, you can guarantee that Laura and Fernando have had a hand in it on one or two minimal celebrities. I mentioned Fernando Garcia. I should just show you guys some photos of him. So they actually met when they were working at Oscar de la Renta over 10 years ago. And, you know, he has basically done everything with her. He is a partner in business and in life with her as well. So if you follow her on Instagram, you'll see him pop up a few times along with their cute little doodle mix of a dog. So Laura is admittedly a little more reserved when it comes to sort of her Asian American activism on her Instagram, but she did recently speak with Elle, and you know, she told this story about how when she went to this factory in Italy and she was asking this factory to do this level of detail on a dress, they just said to her, "Oh, this isn't China, you know, we can't do that much detail." And Laura said, you know, I still work with this woman, but, you know, I put her in her place. And I can only imagine how frustrating that must be for a a designer at the level of Laura Kim, you know, trying to find a factory that can do something so beautiful and then just being told, oh, this isn't China, or just, you know, being assumed that she was from China when she's clearly not. And then Garcia, her partner, has also spoken out to Elle, and he said, Oscar de la Renta was an immigrant, like Laura and I are. His company was filled with every other race. So we truly have never been a company that has felt overtly white or overtly one race. It's always been a melting pot at Oscar de la Renta. Laura's personal account is listed here. It's called Toki Bun Bun. I guess that's her nickname. She has 100,000 followers, a little over that. And that video, the picture where she's wearing the green scarf there, that's actually a video where she speaks out against some of the Asian American violence that had taken place earlier this year. So for her, that was, I think it was really big for her to post about it and to have that post be a video when she's normally just posting about, you know, beautiful fashion things. And she has worn, you know, I'm a voter shirts, things like that, but clearly not as overt as someone like a Phillip or a Prabal. Monse Mason, that's the Instagram account of her line that has about 350,000 followers. And then of course, Oscar de la Renta coming in, showing off with the 5 million followers. And I always wonder a little bit, you know, how many people know that the helm of Oscar de la Renta is run by 2 immigrants, one being a Korean American. I just think it's so cool, especially for me because I am also a Korean American, but I wish she would post a little bit more about that on the Oscar account, but well, I just have to wait and see. Next up in the Slaysians group, we have Tina Leung. She is a fashion stylist. I have this beautiful skyline of Hong Kong here because she's actually from Hong Kong. She went to FIT, which is the Fashion Institute of Design in New York City, which is sort of the last of the really prestigious fashion schools that I've been talking about with all of these people. So she sort of went to New York, did her thing, studied, went back to Hong Kong, and really made it big in the editorial styling space. So when you're flipping through a Vogue or a Elle and you see like a few spreads of a celebrity dressed up, that's editorial styling. So the stylist will pick all of the clothes, maybe decide the makeup, pick the location, sort of work on the whole look of the editorial spread. To me, I think editorial styling is like just top tier styling. Like if you're doing an editorial stylist, like you're amazing. You're so creative. So she worked on some really big Hong Kong magazine publications like Hong Kong Tatler, Style, and Prestige, which, you know, I don't have to tell you, they're very prestigious magazines over there in Hong Kong. But she herself became a little bit of a celebrity just by sort of showing up at fashion shows and looking as amazing as she does. She became this street style icon. And I don't think I would really call her an Instagram influencer because she doesn't really need to be. She's still a stylist. She works with brands like Valentino, Ferragamo, Prada, and I think her Instagram is more just like a fun journal of all the amazing things she wears. Her Instagram account is Tina Leung. She has almost 300,000 followers, so quite a big reach. And I would guess that some of those are a little bit more international because she is from Hong Kong. She has posted quite a bit about Asian American activism, which I think is great because, you know, she comes from Hong Kong, and she herself said, coming from Hong Kong, the Chinese are represented everywhere. So previously, I wasn't very vocal about Asian Americans and their representation because she didn't have to be. But living here for 2 years now, I'm much more aware because honestly, everyone is vocal about everything. She does live in New York, but I do think Americans in general are very vocal. And I think Tina is adopting that part of Americanness a bit when she posts things like, solidarity with the hate crime that happened in Atlanta, posting a picture of herself wearing a Vote by Prabal Gurung t-shirt. And then this quote I found was so interesting coming from Tina. It says, sometimes I wonder if the Asian American experience is what it's like when you're thinking about everybody else, but no one is thinking about you. And to me, I found that so shocking to be on this woman's Instagram, because when I look at her Instagram, I'm like, oh my gosh, she is so stunning. She's so beautiful. Her imagery is just so colorful and bright that, if I was walking down the street in New York, I don't know that I could miss her. But even for her, simply because she's Asian, she does feel a little bit of that invisibility that I think all Asians do a little bit when we're anywhere. Last up on the group of Slaysians is Ezra Williams, who is a socialite and restaurateur. Just sharing some of the images that he has on his Instagram account. So Ezra is truly the Instagram rich kid. In fact, he was featured on a reality TV show by that name called Instagram Rich Kids. He was born and raised in Jakarta. His father is a real estate tycoon. So, think the crazy rich Asians like on another level. And his mom at some point ran a fashion store in Indonesia. So he grew up with his mom going to buying trips and helping out at the store. So he sort of grew up with this love of fashion. And you can really see that in the images he posts on Instagram. When he moved to New York City, simply by virtue of being rich and fabulous, he kind of made his way across the circuits of Fashion Week and all of the fashion shows. And he quickly made friends with some of the other celebrities out there. Nikki Hilton is one of them, and he's pictured here with the Hiltons. He posts quite frequently about their excursions, mostly about fashion, going out, eating, living this fabulous Instagram influencer life. Aside from some of the fabulous outfits he posts, he does post quite a bit about the hashtag Stop Asian Hate movement. Here's just a snapshot of what he said when he posted that, talking about some of his experiences as a minority, especially because he is really an immigrant as well. And while he is obviously a bit more muted than some of our other Slaysians, he is always posting about his excursions with the other members of the group. So here's a picture of him with Prabal when it was Prabal's birthday, and he tags him. And then this picture of him and Laura Kim out at a restaurant, and they're actually both wearing a Phillip Lim jacket. So he tags the Phillip Lim, the brand, in it too, which I think is great, because then all of his followers can then see like, oh, he's friends with Prabal and Phillip, who are super into the Asian American activism, and therefore, he must be too. It's really nice to see that camaraderie. So WTF, where's the food? In my flyer, I did say that we'd be talking about food. I myself, it's like almost 8 o'clock here in Singapore, so I'm starving and I'm always thinking about food. So I thought I would make this section of the presentation a little bit more fun. And since we are talking about Instagram, I am going to be playing a little game here called Who Posted That? So I will show you an image of a picture that was posted to one of the Slaysians Instagram accounts. And if you guys want to type in the comment section of this Zoom, who you think posted this image onto their Instagram account. So if I can see, trying to actually get to see who, some of the responses come in. So go ahead and type in who you think posted this photo. There's no prize, by the way, and you won't be in trouble if you're wrong. So take your best guess. For those of you who guessed C, Laura Kim, you are correct. Maybe that one was a little too easy just because this cake looks like it could be like an Oscar de la Renta dress or something. So Laura Kim is a huge foodie and chef herself. She actually made these 3 images that you see here and posted them to her Instagram account. How she has the time, I don't know, don't ask me. She just has a good aesthetic with everything, I guess. She was even featured on the New York Times doing a little cooking class, of course, looking fabulous and not getting like an ounce of food on her white shirt, which, you know, don't ask me. She's just amazing overall. Next up on the Who Posted That, we have a picture of okra, lemongrass, and prawn stir fry, topped with a little bit of cilantro. So go ahead in the comments section, type in who you think posted this image to their Instagram account. Oh, maybe I made this way too easy. For those of you who have guessed A, it is Phillip Lim. So Phillip Lim is a hardcore foodie. On his personal account, he used to, well, still does post all these pictures of the recipes that he comes up with himself. And so he launched a book called More Than Our Bellies. The cover of that book is just over there on the right. Beautiful book. It's sold out, sorry to say, but if you go to his website, you can sign up to be on the wait list. But he used that name, More Than Our Bellies, to launch his own Instagram account simply for his recipes and food related posts. That has sort of expanded just in the past few weeks to include some really cool kitchen accessories. So like a wood chopping block that has his little name and logo on it, some really cool bowls and vases, and I'm hoping that they ship internationally soon so I can get my hands on one of those blocks. Last up in the Who Posted That series is just a platter of goodies. I can't even talk about what's on there without my stomach rumbling, so look at the food and tell me who you think posted this picture on their Instagram account. Okay, I see some answers coming in there. And for those of you who guessed, E for Ezra. Ezra Williams posted this picture to his Instagram account because he is, I did mention he was a restaurateur. He is using his sort of wealth to invest in restaurants. So this restaurant is called Wayan, W-A-Y-A-N. It is on Spring Street in New York City. And it is Indonesian food, paying homage to where he is from. And if we have any followers from New York now, do go check it out, because I heard that you guys just opened up indoor dining, which is super exciting. And maybe you guys will catch a glimpse of Ezra himself there while enjoying one of these beautiful, beautiful cocktails. Just to speak a little bit more on the food thing, food is sort of one of the main reasons why these 5 people came together. Tina Leung said, you know, we really, really bonded when Philip asked me over for a pre-drinks before bubble tea. So they went and had drinks before they had another drink. And Laura and Prabal were there, and Tina brought Ezra along. And then they just decided, you know what, let's make this a regular thing. So if you go on any of their Instagram accounts, you'll see photos like this where they're just, you know, out at a restaurant or at someone's house enjoying some food. And Philip is well known to make his homemade pho for the group as well when they are in the mood for a homemade meal. And just to wrap it up a little bit with the 5 of these Slaysians, what I think is so interesting is their bond. So not over just the food piece, but I think they really bonded because they all are from Asia in one way or another, all immigrated to the US and have created their names, and they've all sort of come together on, you know, their unique experiences. I think someone from the outside could say, oh, you know, there are all these 5 Asians just in fashion. Duh, it seems like they have a lot in common, but to me, they're not. It just speaks to the wide variety of Asian American experiences there can be. And I think, you know, as we celebrate AAPI month, it's so important to remember that, that one of us is not like the other. There can be a wide range. And I think it's sort of our jobs and obviously the celebrities' jobs to really teach and educate our communities about our diversity. And lastly, if you guys do have an interest in fashion, I will show you a slide on the next screen that shows some other Asian American fashion designers. But as I wrap up with the Slaysians, I will end with this quote from Prabal. He said, use your voice for good. And if you're lucky, you will find a community like I did with these Slaysians. And this really resonated with me because I've lived abroad for, I don't even know how many years now because I've moved back and forth so much. But everywhere I go, I tend to find my own group of Asian Americans, and it's really great to be able to share our experiences together, no matter where in the world we are. And I hope that everybody listening can find their own group of Slaysians, whether you're Asian or not. You know, just go up to an Asian and ask about their experience. See if they want to post a picture with you guys with the hashtag Slaysian. These were the designers that I was speaking about to earlier. I do want to highlight that these 5 that I spoke about today are just the beginning. Some of these names may look familiar to some of you. Vera Wang, Anna Sui, Izumiyaki, Richard Kai, Alexandra Wang, Jason Wu. And here's a photo of them when they were featured in a New York Times article. Just Google New York Times Asian American designers and you can read this article. But I think it's a really great article because it speaks to the influence that the Asian Americans have had on the fashion industry. Speaking back to a little bit of Prabal's quote of, you know, fashion just seems fun and superfluous. It's really not. If there's really no industry that at least I can think of that has had such a big impact from the Asian American communities that are in it. So please do this month support some of these designers, look into them. If you own any of their clothing, go ahead and wear it and rock it and be proud of the Asian Americans in the fashion industry. Lastly, this is me. I've been talking a lot about Instagram today, so if you guys want to follow me, I'm at the Reoutfitter I'm on Facebook. I recently joined Twitter, so you guys know where to find me and follow me. I hope you guys all found this informative, and I will pass it back to you, Angela.
Thank you, Sarah. We are at 8 o'clock Singapore time. And so
Sorry.
no, I mean, that was all so great. And I have a lot to process. I know I talked about questions at the end. If anyone needs to scoot out, I totally understand. I do have like one burning question for anybody who has just a few more seconds or a few more minutes before we wrap it up in 5 minutes, just to give everyone a frame of reference, if you don't mind. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned what a big deal it was for, those who spoke out to speak out against, racial injustice. So I kind of want to understand like what that big deal is, if that makes sense. So from what you've experienced and seen in your years in the fashion world, fashion school, in the industry, can you elaborate why it is so tricky and awkward for these really successful individuals to like say something in their personal Instagrams or to, I guess, speak out?
Sure. I think I'll bring it back to when I went to fashion school. So I went to FIDM, which is on the West Coast. So not like these East Coasters. But when you start at fashion school, I think I certainly felt personally this othering of, I am a minority in this classroom, for sure. And there's like a bit of a camaraderie, I think, that happens even starting at fashion school, where it was just easier for me to relate. And I think for other Asian Americans in fashion school to relate to some of the other Asians that were there, simply because we felt like we were being othered and we felt like we were different. And I think that just kind of, it moves along. So, as you're an intern, you might find another Asian American that you sort of click with because you have the same experiences. And it just kind of moves up and up and up, all the way to like a Laura Kim level, clearly. And I think it's such a big deal for them to speak out, because if you think of some of the other fashion brands that are not Asian American owned, like a Diane von Furstenberg or a Cynthia Rowley, just naming some names. I'm not trying to call them out or anything. Those are the first I can think of. They don't really speak out on a lot of social issues. When people go to DVF's Instagram account, they probably don't really care that much about what she is politically speaking out against. They probably just want to see her beautiful prints and the process of making her dresses. So for a Phillip Lim and a Prabal Gurung, who have been in the industry for so long, they're heavy hitters, to speak out about something that they personally believe in, it's a really, really big deal. And I think that they are very aware of that. I think they want their followers to know, and they're at a place where they're so high up that they can say, you know what, if you don't agree with stopping Asian American hate crimes, then by all means go shop elsewhere.
I mean, I was just thinking how I'm kind of like praising their sort of like their boldness and their, in a way, potential self-sacrifice, because they could compromise their business interests. Like people may not want to be like associated with them or with somebody who's making a fuss or being loud. And it's just, I was just thinking it kind of stinks that we have to praise somebody for just acknowledging their own race, of calling out unfairness or seeming to ask for something, for being visible. Like it's just kind of speaks to where we are in this time. But it's also amazing that they have that courage right now when, a few decades ago, people would not have.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
I guess we'll wrap it up now.
Okay.
And I just wanted to say a big thank you. Thank you for sharing your time and knowledge with us. And I honestly feel like I've learned so many things about this moment in cultural history, beyond fashion, beyond social media activism. It feels a little revolutionary to be celebrating AAPI excellence. I mean, I'm still acclimating to the concept that AAPI excellence is AAPI heritage, honestly. So
Yeah.
thank you everyone else for joining us today, and so glad you could be part of this inaugural event. You can also read more about the history of AAPI Heritage Month online, which has a very interesting history. But one fun fact I'm sharing with you now is that it started out a few decades ago as Heritage Week, the first 10 days in May, but called Heritage Week until George H.W. Bush turned it into a full month formally in the US. So anyway, I'm just excited to sit back and see how this relatively new phenomenon evolves as we evolve. So have a good night, everyone, and we'll
Thank
see
you
you.
So much, everyone. Thank you, Angela.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.